Hello there everyone, welcome to another exam question walkthrough. Today I'm going to have a look at the CAE Advanced Use of English question 4 question, which is the keyword transformation. I'll tell you what the answers are and I'll walk you through why the answers are the answers. But before we start with that, just a few things to go through, housekeeping if you will. Just the rules of how to do this keyword transformations exercise. It's always worth going over them just in case that one time happens that you make a mistake because you didn't follow the rules. So you're given an example sentence. The second sentence has a gap in it, and you've got to redraft that sentence so it has a similar meaning to the first sentence. Using the key word given, of course, we can't change that word which is given, and that's mentioned in the next sentence. You must use between 3 and 6 words. That's important to remember as well. So in case you think of a 2-word answer, you're going to be wrong. You're not going to get any points. And of course, that 3 to 6 word answer must include the word which is given. So simple housekeeping rules. What do you need in order to do well in this keyword transformation exercise? You need a very good range of English vocabulary, a very good English range of English grammar. One way to prepare for this question is to practice lots of sentence transformations. In other words, having a look at a sentence and finding out how many ways you can say the same thing. And in doing that, you can transform sentences from active to passive voice, using positive structures and using negative structures. If we've got questions, how we can turn those into conditional forms, and so on, so on. There's lots of different ways that you can transform a sentence so that you say the same thing in more or less the same way in different ways. It's slightly old school, but it is something that you can practice, but you've got to want to practice it. Not many people can come to this exam question without any practice and expect to get good marks. And the important thing is that this question has got lots and lots of marks. For every single question there are 2 marks, which means that if you make a complete pig's ear of it, you're going to lose lots and lots of points. One advantage of having each question having 2 points is that you might get 1 point instead of no points at all, which is another way of looking at it. But generally speaking, this is seen as one of the hardest questions on the paper. But as I walk you through the answers, hopefully you'll see the kind of things that you need to focus on and how you can get the best possible score. Now let me make this screen a little bit bigger so you can see everything a bit clearer. There we go. Okay, so let's get going. Apparently the restaurant in town has been bought out by someone else. So let's see the information, or identify the information that we don't have to worry about in the answer. We've got the words, I hear the restaurant in town, which basically covers this information here. So we don't have to worry about this information. What we have to think about is how we can reword this part of the sentence using the keyword under. Now, this comes down to an expression that you may or may not know, and the idea is that if the restaurant has been bought out by someone else, it means that someone else is in control of the restaurant, and we have an expression for that. I hear the expression, the restaurant in town, is we need our verb under new management. That's our expression. So if something has been bought out by something else, it's under new management. And if we have a look at our answer, we can see that my answer is one of them, one of the options given. Of course, you can use the contracted form as well. So that's question number 1. Question number 2. Sarah cried her eyes out immediately she was told she'd failed her driving test. Now, let's identify all of the parts of this sentence that we don't need to worry about. Clearly, we don't have to talk about Sarah because this is repeated in our sentence that we have to fill in. And then we've got this part here. Soon as she heard she'd failed her driving test. And that covers this part here. Immediately she was told she'd failed her driving test. Immediately is soon as, and then the rest of it, she was told to fail the driving test, which is basically the end of this sentence here. So what we've got to worry about is this part of the sentence. So she cried her eyes out. Now, for those of you who have got a great knowledge of vocabulary and bearing in mind the key word which is broke, which is a past form of break, you know that the verb that we're playing with here is to break down. If you break down, it rather gives you this idea that she's crying her eyes out. So we've got the past form here, which is broke. Now, remember simple sentence structure. Sarah is our subject. After subjects, we have our verb. So this is our verb structure. So Sarah broke down. Now, we've got this part of the sentence here, soon as, but that's not complete. What we need to write here as well as our preposition, as soon as, which completely covers the idea of immediately. Is this our correct answer? We've got 3 words here and we need 3 to 6 words. Not quite, because what we're missing out is an important element of her crying. In other words, she broke down in tears. And if we have a look at our answer, she broke down in tears as soon as she heard ... So we need to cover all of the information that is missing in the gap for our question. If we don't cover all of the information, we risk losing some points. For question number 3, the government recently said our problems are the fault of the worldwide economic slowdown. Let's identify the language we don't need to worry about. The government and the government, so we don't have to think about that. And then the worldwide economic slowdown. We've got that bit covered there. And then we've got our problems, which is covering this bit here. So we've got to think about this part here. Are the fault of. We got to think of a different way of talking about fault. How can we do that? We can talk about blame. If it's someone's fault, it means that someone is to blame. And that then neatly gives us our answer. If we have a look at the key word, it's placed. Placed is a past participle. Past participles go with the verb have to make the perfect form. So it makes sense that our key word goes right after have. So the government have placed the blame for the worldwide economic slowdown. The blame, not for. The blame on. Let's see if we got that right. Yes, placed the blame on the worldwide economic slowdown for our problems. So that covers question number 3. Now you're probably going to say, Simon, we haven't covered recently, and we haven't. This is true. This is language which isn't replicated in the answer. So we just have to be a little bit wary. Perhaps we need to focus on the key message. I can see that you probably won't be very convinced with that. To be honest, I'm not sure. Perhaps this should have been in the answer somewhere. Maybe in exam conditions the answer would have been recently placed the blame on. I know it's not covered here, but as I said, you need to create a similar message. So I can understand it if you included this in your answer and it's not covered in the answer key. I would say that this is okay. If I was marking the paper, I would be happy in it. That's all I can say about that. For question number 4, you led me to believe the job was mine if I wanted it. Let's have a look at the language we don't have to worry about. That the job was mine if I wanted it, which covers this bit here, so we don't have to think about that. In our answer question, we've got I, so the focus changes. Here it's you, here it is I. So the focus of how we approach this has changed. Another example of sentence transformation. Who is the subject, who is the focus of the sentence. So what have we got to do here? We've got to replace the language, which is this bit here. You led me to believe. So whoops, spelling's gone wrong there. I had the impression. We've got to have the past form here because the past form is here as well. So I had the impression. As we can see in the answer key, this is one of our answers, but as you can see, there are 3 other answers, 1, 2, 3, which focus on using the verb be. All of these answers are fine. So we had a number of options available to us. For question number 5, he would never have guessed that at the age of 17 he would be playing for his country. Now, which bit do we not need to worry about? It's this bit here, that at the age of 17, so this bit, we can forget about that. What we need to focus on with our keyword is this bit here. He would never have guessed. In other words, he had no idea. Our keyword here is little, and in fact this gives us our clue, because what we need here in this bit is inversion. Inversion is a grammar structure, a grammar technique that we use to emphasize a certain point. In this case, emphasizing the fact that he doesn't know, or he didn't know, what he would be doing at the age of 17. So our answer based on inversion is little did he know. And if we check our answer, we can see we've got 2 options to us: little did he know and little did he realize. Both of them are inverted forms. Both of them are absolutely fine. Now, inversions is an advanced language technique. If you're not familiar with inversions, there's plenty of material out on Google for you to have a look at, and I advise and encourage that you do, because this is inversions are something that you'll see in the open close. In other words, question 2 of the use of English. It's something that you can use in your writing to great effect. It's an advanced language skill, and you'll see it and you might hear it as well in the listening question in your listening exam. So inverted forms, inversions, I strongly recommend that you become familiar with them, and they're not that difficult. For question number 6, feel free to telephone if you have any further problems. Our keyword here is call. What do we have to focus on? This bit we don't have to focus on clearly. If you have any problems, if you have any further problems, that bit's covered already. We don't have to worry about this. But here you can see that this is in the positive structure. Here we've got to use a negative, or we've got to be aware of the fact that this is a negative structure. So we've got to think of vocabulary, which means the same as feel free, but we would use in a negative form. And that vocabulary that we need is hesitate. Structure. Hesitate is followed by a full infinitive. So there's our keyword call. Do not hesitate to call if you have any further problems. And if we have a look at our answers, we can see that that is indeed the case. Do not hesitate to call. There are some other options. Do not hesitate to call us. Do not hesitate to give us a call. Both are fine. What's not in the answer is me. Here it says do not hesitate to call us. Do not hesitate to give us a call. But here I can't identify where this talks about plural people. In other words, more than one. Maybe you can see it. If you can see it, then leave a comment below. But I can't see how this refers to any amount of people. So if you wrote down hesitate to call me, whoops, I would say that this is correct. But once again, if you think otherwise, then please let me know in the comments, and I'm quite happy to have that conversation with you. Okay. Thank you very much for watching this video as I quickly flew through the answers and explained why the answers are the answers. As you can see, in order to do this question properly, you have to be ready for this. You have to have a good knowledge of English grammar, a good knowledge of English vocabulary, and you have to have had practice in sentence transformations, transforming one sentence written in one way to a different language format, using different vocabulary, using synonyms, positive forms, negative forms, conditionals, questions, etc., etc., etc. You have to be able to practice this, and you have to be able to be good at this. So in the average course book, I think you're not going to have a great deal of practice with this. So you're going to have to go out onto the internet to have a look at other keyword transformation exercises, and practice and practice and practice. You can do this, of course, by yourself if you go online or do some writing yourself and think about how can I say this in different ways. And that starts to get your brain to think about how you can do this. And it is worth practicing because of the amount of points in this question. If you do this question well, it's an easy 15, 16 points. If you do this question badly, well, it could be as low as 0, 1, 2, 3, and you can imagine that range of points, if you don't have those points in the exam, will cost you a grade. So it's not just, it doesn't matter that much, this is a big deal. So this is the hardest question on the use of English paper for good reason. Okay, if you want to practice more questions like this and you've got Ready for Advanced or Gold Advanced or Expert Advanced, go along to cramtheexam.com where I've got videos which explain every single exam question in those books. So if you want to, you can practice all of them in one day if you want to, if you've got those textbooks. Thank you very much, and I'll see you again soon.